This is Freddy Fazbear, haunting and uncanny from his design alone, a staple of the mascot horror genre. And this is Glamrock Freddy. Wait, how did we get here? It's safe to say over the years, Freddy and the gang have transformed into something very distant from their original designs. I mean, how many Bonnies are there now? Too many. There's too many. Anyway, this is a video on how FNAF has had design changes throughout each game, and how each iteration normally mimics the franchise's many changes in the public eye. So, let's have a closer look at how FNAF's designs have evolved. Of course, we have to start with the first installment. FNAF 1 is trying to specifically capture the source material that inspired it, which is the 70s and 80s animatronics specifically from Chuck E. Cheese. FNAF 1 goes to lengths to make sure these designs are accurate with, of course, their own twist, which is thanks to Scott's interesting modelling, specifically from the Desolate Hope, of course. Now, Scott is not exactly known for being great with humanoid designs. Chipper and Sons Lumberco is an example of this, having models so grotesque that the game was bombarded with bad reviews from critics, with some critics even calling the designs fit for a horror game.
You may notice the dead, terrifying, soulless eyes of the background characters,
Which of course made Scott create Five Nights at Freddy's. However, Scott was very talented with making robot designs, and if you mix these two together, you get animatronic designs that are purposely uncanny but also fit the Chuck E. Cheese look. Now, the original 4 models perfectly capture the vibe that Chuck E. Cheese animatronics have become famous for, even down to the slow and mechanical movements that the animatronics showed off in the trailer. Now, of course, a key aspect of these designs is the endoskeletons. As each game goes on, the endoskeletons tend to change, so we'll see many different designs as we delve deeper into each game. Although I will say I'm keeping this segment short since the designs have been studied in a lot more depth in other videos, and also we don't have the time to study it in this video, sadly. FNAF 1 set up the fundamental qualities that FNAF models are known for. Anyway, let's move on to the next game. FNAF 2 is the sequel, prequel, I'm not too sure myself, of FNAF 1, where we have 2 sets of animatronics, the toys and the withered animatronics. These sets of robots look drastically different from each other, with one of them being the original band, all teared up and destroyed, while the toys are shiny, new and appealing, apart from Mangle. What's interesting with these designs is that all of the characters now have top teeth, which shows the series is starting to gain its own sense of style, with the Chuck E. Cheese animatronics avoiding teeth, or just not having any at all. Along with this, Scott made the decision to completely redesign the Withereds, which still confuses some people to this day. With FNAF 2, there are also 2 more characters which don't fit any of the lists that I've set, and these characters are the Shadows, which consists of a shadow version of Freddy and a shadow version of Bonnie, with Shadows Bonnie's name being the greatest thing in the franchise's history. RWQFSFASXC. I'm never reading that again. Nonetheless, I think FNAF 2 has some of the most interesting design choices when it comes to the original 3 games. Now, speaking of the 3rd game, FNAF 3. There's not much to say about this game. Springtrap is the only real design, with the others being rehashed animatronics from the previous games, either with some missing limbs or looking like a watermelon. Speaking of Springtrap, I personally believe he has one of the best designs in the original Scott era games, from the wires sticking out of the suit down to the withering of the costume showing the corpse inside. This is also where the trend of 5-fingered animatronics starts. As mentioned when I was talking about FNAF 2, the games start to adapt more humanoid features to the robots as they go on. Sadly, the Phantom animatronics designs drag this game down as they look very basic in comparison to previous designs in the series. Luckily for us, we're moving on to some of the most visually impressive designs of the series. Hello. You really don't want to know what this timer does. To get it to stop, you should subscribe. I really want to tell you, but I can't. Good. If not, I'm sorry. Out of all of the original 4 games, FNAF 4, the final chapter, that name really lasted long, is the most unique with its mechanics and its designs. Instead of going for the more common animatronic look, these creatures look like they've been ripped straight out of my childhood nightmares. Of course, no matter how many games there are, each game will include a Freddy, and this Freddy looks horrifying. This trend also keeps up with the rest of his friends, with all of them transforming into these monsters, with my personal favourite being Foxy. That is, until we look outside of the main 4. This game finally introduces Fredbear in his first 3D appearance, but not in the way you would think. Nightmare Fredbear is our first introduction to the character that people have been speculating about for the past 2 to 3 games, and he turns out to be one of the most menacing designs, especially when FNAF 4 launched. Along with this, he comes with his shadow version, Nightmare, who is almost identical except for a different coloured hat and bow tie. Now, this is a shorter video, so I'm going to have to breeze through these next set of characters really quick. Plushtrap is a plush version of Springtrap, with less withering, but it's still a good design. Nightmare Balloon Boy works the exact same way as Plushtrap in this game, except now this annoying brat has razor-sharp teeth. Great! The Jackos are certainly unique in their looks, but they are just retextured and mildly redesigned versions of Nightmare Bonnie and Chica. The best designs in this game come after the game's launch in the Halloween update, and they are very obviously Nightmare Mangle and Nightmarion. Even in recent years, Nightmarion becoming one of the most recognisable characters from FNAF 4 just behind Nightmare Fredbear. Okay, to go over it, the effect FNAF 4 had is interesting. Some people believed that the series was losing its spark, while others thought the designs were terrifying. Alright, we need to speed this up. On to FNAF Sister Location. When it comes to Sister Location, some love it and some hate it. But what cannot be brushed off is that out of all of Scott's original FNAF games, Sister Location is the most interesting when it comes to its designs, with the colours being so vibrant in comparison to the more dull designs in the originals. I mean, look, let me ask another YouTuber what he thinks of these great designs.
What I think of the designs in Sister Location? Those designs are so ass.
Anyway, let's start off with Sister Location's main promotional character, Circus Baby. She's a giant circus clown with orangish pigtails, and while she doesn't end up being used much in the game, she's more of the voice of the story, so you don't end up seeing her design much, which is disappointing considering she had one of the best designs in Sister Location. Now, moving on to our main set of animatronics, the Fun Times. It consists of Funtime Freddy, Foxy, and Chica, who is interestingly enough not from this game, although I will be talking about her here just to save time. To start, we have Funtime Freddy. This guy is very different from our regular Freddys, and that's because he's got Bonnie on his hand. Funtime Freddy and Bonbon are a duo, with Bonbon being FNAF 1 Bonnie but shrunken down to fit as a hand puppet. Funtime Foxy, on the other hand, was introduced in FNAF World, which is odd but not surprising. With Funtime Foxy, there's not much unique to say in comparison to the other Foxys in the series. I do believe it's one of the weaker designs for Foxy throughout the entire franchise. There's just nothing majorly interesting about it compared to the others, which is a shame. Anyway, Funtime Chica is one of the most unique out of the Funtimes, with her colours being more orange and rose in comparison to the purple and pink used in Funtime Foxy and Freddy. What is interesting is even though she's from a different game, she shares both design traits with Funtime Foxy and Freddy. It's nice to see Scott stay consistent with the designs even when he changes to a different game. Next up is Ballora, who is a character who doesn't use her eyes much, and the design shows. She's one of the only characters in the series to have human ears, unlike the others who either have animal ears or no ears altogether. It's interesting to see little details like this implemented into the models. Something I forgot to mention, but that's consistent with all of the Sister Location models, is the opening faceplates that every character has. These separate them from their original designs from FNAF 1 to 4, as no other character in the series had had these up to this point. Now we start getting to some of the more smaller characters of Sister Location, and these are the mini-arenas. I hate these things. They don't really do much other than just be annoying, and they're kind of basic. Maybe that's just my opinion, but I'm not a huge fan of these things. To throw another character under the bus, the Biddy Babs. They also don't feel like they fit in this game. They don't feel like what FNAF should be. And it's a shame because this game has got some damn good models. Speaking of good models, we're moving on to Ennard. This design is single-handedly one of the best in the entire franchise. He's an amalgamation of all of the main characters into one, and I think he looks fantastic. This is some of the best modelling Scott has done for a game outside of Springtrap in FNAF 3. I cannot think of any other character that holds a quality to these designs. And the final design that I'll cover for Sister Location is Yendo. He's like the endoskeleton / Golden Freddy of this game, and I think he's Funtime Freddy's Endo, although I might be wrong about that. His design certainly shows that Scott put effort and care into these models, even if they're not going to be seen often. While not being the best model in the game, Yendo is certainly interesting. And with the release of Sister Location, FNAF became slightly more sci-fi. It's odd as it doesn't really get carried on throughout the rest of the series. Some aspects remain, but not all of them. Custom Night released. Scott went quiet for about a year before shadow dropping one of my personal favourite FNAF games. When it comes to FNAF games, Pizza Sim is one of the most unique in its daytime gameplay. Although we aren't here to talk about gameplay, we're here to talk about designs. So let's start with the trash can. Yeah, when talking about Pizza Sim's designs, it can be pretty hit or miss. Sometimes you have a really great design, and other times you get characters like Scraptrap. With Pizza Sim being Scott's last solo developed FNAF game, that's excluding UCN, which didn't really have any new designs. This game shows a drastic change of what FNAF used to be and what it has become now. To begin, this game has the most new animatronics that has ever been introduced up to this point in the series. So let's get started. The Trashing Gang are exactly what they sound like, and in all honesty there's not much to cover with them design wise, which is why we are going to talk about the mediocre melodies. For characters with names like that, they certainly live up to it. That's not inherently a bad thing since it seems intentional. They look like bootlegs of the originals with minor changes, but they overall fulfill their purpose in the end. The next set of animatronics are the scrap animatronics, or at least that's what I'm going to be calling them in this video. And this group consists of some of Scott's worst modelling in the entire franchise. These things look hideous. Scraptrap and Scrap Baby just look awful, they don't fit at all. And Molten Freddy's the only one who looks kind of okay, but he's just a remodel of Ennard, but slightly worse, and orange for some reason. The scrap animatronics just don't fit when it comes to FNAF 6 in comparison to everybody else. It's a shame because Scraptrap is one of the biggest downgrades I've ever seen in history. The final group of animatronics are the Rockstars, which is this game's main cast of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, with the newcomer being Lefty. What's interesting with the Rockstars designs in comparison to the originals is they have this clamp looking jaw, which looks similar to the 8-bit Fredbear that was in FNAF 4. I thought it was a very interesting design choice when I was looking over the models for this video. The newcomer Lefty is just a slight remodel and full retexture of Rockstar Freddy, with the only real noticeable thing being that he only has one functioning eye. And also has the puppet inside of him for some reason, but I'm not here to talk about that, so moving on. Now we are onto the extras. These guys didn't really fit into any group, so I'm just putting them right at the end of this section. First up is Candy Cadet, who is only really here as a storyteller in-game, but his design is one of the best when it comes to Pizza Sim, and he's one of the few unique models in this game. Another character with a super unique model is Music Man. This guy definitely has one of the best models in the game, and it seems Steel would agree as they've brought him back in some form in almost every single game they've made since. The next character we're talking about is L-Chip. He is certainly one of the more interesting characters in Pizza Sim as he feels like an insert of one of Scott's older characters from Chipper and Sons, yet he's also unique enough in a strange way that separates him from the others. The final character on this list is Helpy, and anybody who hasn't seen Helpy's design hasn't played a FNAF game in the past 7 years. Helpy is everywhere, yet is one of the few designs that hasn't had a major model change in almost all of his appearances. Helpy almost represents the brand of FNAF at this point, as he has appeared in every single FNAF game in some form since FNAF 6. FNAF Pizzeria Simulator stands out as what some people would consider to be the last indie FNAF game, as after this, games like FNAF Help Wanted and Security Breach changed the mould on how FNAF looked. And with all that being said, moving on to our final game of this video. Finally, we move on to FNAF Security Breach. Now, I'm going to have a look at this game differently than I have with the others in this video. This game is the one that stands out in the crowd as FNAF's least scariest game. And it's obvious to see why. The designs used in Security Breach are supposed to be unique to the rest of the series, yet they come off as generic in the mascot horror scene. Characters that once brought dread like Freddy and Chica now lose their horror with brighter colours and a more high-tech design. The fear factor of the originals was the clunky, slow-moving animatronic walking through the corridors towards you, which is immediately lost when you see Glamrock Freddy sprinting at full speed and clipping through walls trying to get you to safety. Now, as much as I'm complaining about Security Breach, I will say there are certain qualities that the originals do not have. For example, Moon. I will say out of all of the designs, this guy is the only character that made me feel unnerved, although there is hope for the future of FNAF's designs. As of writing this, Secret of the Mimic is 3 days away from releasing and I will be playing it on stream. From what I could tell from the trailer and some of the promotional material for this game, it's almost a small reset to capture the original look of the games, with it being more mascot suits than sci-fi robots. My hope for the game is that it doesn't go back to the sci-fi roots but goes more back to the original dread people felt in the franchise. The only design I can talk about for Secret of the Mimic is Jackie at the moment because that's the only design we've seen fully, but I personally think they look incredible and capture exactly what FNAF should be. To end this section, Security Breach changed FNAF's designs in some interesting ways, yet lost what made the games feel original. And with Secret of the Mimic just around the corner, I hope we will see some of the aspects of these designs return in the next game. Another video out! Sorry it took so long to make, but I promise things will be quicker in the next upload. While I've been gone, things have changed. The channel hit 2K. I honestly cannot thank you all more. This means the world to me, and I promise you I will make it my priority to make content for y'all. Returning viewers may notice the new look. We had a bit of an upgrade while y'all were gone. Along with this, we got a members program now, which I will throw everybody's name on screen here. And we got a Fortnite/Epic Games code. If you want to support us there, you can use code ExplodingLoaf in either of the stores to help us out. I also want to thank MKG for appearing in a small section of the video, and Momocado for editing the entire FNAF 6 section. Go and check them both out, they're great. Okay, enough yapping. Thank you all so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye everyone.